Welcome back to Inside R&D. With the loss of an iconic and beloved character, and the war between the denizens of Theros and the very gods themselves, Journey into Nyx presented R&D with a uniquely challenging environment. Now let's see how the design and development teams rose to that challenge and turned Journey into Nyx into a compelling end to an epic block.
Leading a set is quite a big challenge, I found. You not only have to balance the sort of responsibilities of designing a thing with the responsibilities of leading a team, but you also have to pay attention to what the other sets in the block are doing, because they're changing all the time while you're designing your set. So it's sort of aiming at a moving target.
What we've learned to do in third sets, out of necessity, is we have to hold something. We have to go, something you really badly want, that we're just not going to give it to you, and then in the third set we can finally give it to you, and you're excited because you've been waiting for this. So in Journey into Nyx, that was Enchantment Matters. That one of the things that the set had an enchantment theme, that we know people like linear connecting of things, and hey, I want to play lots of enchantments and get rewarded for doing that. We withheld that. The first two sets just didn't do that. And we saved it, so finally the third set could do this thing you've been dying to do. Whew, here you go.
So Constellation is a cool new ability word you find on several cards in Journey into Nyx. It's in front of abilities on enchantments that give you some sort of bonus when either that card or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control. So if you're a fan of Landfall from a few years ago in Zendikar, it's kind of the same concept, but of course Theros chock full of enchantments, so playing more and more enchantments, we want to give you enough tools to really build an enchantment heavy deck. So it gives you lots of bonuses for doing so.
Eidolon of Blossoms was a card that we always knew was going to be in the set. From day one, we were going to have some kind of enchantress, but we had to wait and tease it out for the right moment, and now that we have Journey into Nyx and we have all these enchantments in the entire block, the card is at its peak, and we wanted to put it here just for that specific moment.
Constellation is our mechanic linear that we call it. You want to have lots of cards with the same mechanic on it. So if you have constellations, they help out other constellations, which help out all your enchantments, including your enchantment creatures, which you may have had from Theros and Born of the Gods.
Doomweight Giant is a good example of where you can really get paid off well for having a deck focused around Constellation. Like, it's nice if Doomweight Giant comes into play and gives your opponent's whole squad a -1/-1, for example, if your opponent had Elspeth tokens in play or something, but it really rewards the player that's willing to really go all in and like try to play 2 or 3 enchantments in one turn and like start, getting rid of their opponent's entire board of creatures every turn.
Constellation had a very interesting start. It actually started in a completely different set. Constellation first showed up as the Azorius mechanic in Return to Ravnica. But what we found was it didn't blend well with the other guilds, and so we had to take it out. And we knew we were going to do an enchantment theme coming down the road, and so we pulled it out, and then when we were doing Journey into Nyx, we're like, okay, we want Enchantment Matters, what can we do? And essentially it's Enchantment Fall, right? It's Landfall, but for enchantments. And like, well, here's the obvious thing. We tried it for Return to Ravnica. It played well. Oh, let's try that.
We want to make sure that the power is correctly distributed across the constellation ability and the creature itself if it is an enchantment creature. So for example, if we want a card you get to the constellation drafter who's building the all enchantment deck, we could make the body worse so that you're not actually caring about the creature unless you really have the constellation ability to turn on multiple times over the course of the game. And the flip side of that is if we want, we need an enchantment creature that is generally good, we can weaken the constellation ability and turn up the size of the creature, just make it more efficient and more attractive.
You play an enchantment, you're triggering all sorts of different things, drawing lots of cards, playing more enchantments, and it's very easy for these things to kind of spiral out of control. So we had to iterate a lot on these cards, adjust mana costs, adjust abilities, and in the end I'm really happy with where we ended up. There's some pretty cool Constellation-based decks out there, and I think players will have a lot of fun with them.
We arrived at Constellation immediately, super easy. Strive was much more difficult. The Constellation mechanic unified all of the gods and their minions into one force. We wanted to depict a war between the gods and the mortals. We needed another mechanic to unify all of the mortals together. We eventually realized that the heroic mechanic was sort of the key to this puzzle. We needed something to really enable heroic and encourage you to play with lots of heroes instead of just having one hero that you put all of your things on. We wanted something that could target all of your heroes at once. So we came up with the Strive mechanic, where the more mana you have, the more heroes you can target, and it encourages you to make an army of heroes.
Strive came from the fact that we wanted something to trigger heroic, but we also wanted to trigger lots of heroic at the same time. We actually tried buyback initially, which is a way to have a spell that targets that you could then reuse on something else. However, Magic R&D nowadays has really stringent requirements on what we're willing to print, and the repetitive nature of buyback spells, even as something as innocuous as Elvish Fury or something like that, doesn't pass our tests nowadays. So we really like how Strive goes. One target hero works, lots of target heroes work, and then it's done. You can do something else.
Johnny's presence and Tess and Tactics, I feel, are two very good examples of what we were aiming for with what we wanted out of a mechanic like Strive. In each case, you're rewarded for building up a big board of creatures. This, like in each of these cases, these can, and Johnny's presence can help you maintain that board, can make all your guys indestructible, so you can keep doing more and more powerful things. It rewards you for attacking with a lot of creatures. Tess and Tactics is sort of a different situation where if you've built up this board and maybe the board clogs down a little, that you have a way to like have each of your creatures get bigger and fight each of your opponent's creatures. And again, it's something that just scales up more and more as the game progresses. The more mana you have, the more cool things you can do.
Polymorphous Rush is an awesome card. I played a lot with Cytoshape, which lets you turn one of your guys into another guy, but Polymorphous Rush lets you just take it to 11 and say, I want these 2 guys to be that guy, or these 3 guys to be that guy. So putting it, post blocker step, you get a couple of small flyers in and then turn them into big monsters. All of a sudden, they're getting attacked by gigantic hydras or whatnot, and when they thought they were taking 3.
So a couple things you should know with Strive is that you can target any one creature only once, so you can't pile the bonuses onto a single creature. Got to spread them out. 2, like any spell with multiple targets, it'll check those targets when it tries to resolve. If at least one of those targets is still legal, the spell will do as much as it can, although it won't affect any of the illegal targets. You'll still get the bonus for the targets that are still legal.
It's a really beautiful mechanic in that it leads to a lot of interesting choices and allows for play skill to really determine the outcome of a game, as more advanced players know how to use it better, know when to save it, know when to fire it off right away.